everybody. This is Jake Stenziano, host of Wheelbarrow Profits Podcast, here with my co-host, the multifamily mentor, the coach, the chef, the father of six, the best-selling author, the G-Daddy, Gino Barbaro. Gino, how's it going?
Mr. Stenziano, I'm doing good. How you doing, bro?
Always making it happen, big man. I'm pumped because today we are feeding the kids. Guys, we've been incredibly busy with business development, acquisitions, syndications, but our team has been pushing the G-Dad and myself to do more and give back to our communities. So this year, we're officially launching the charitable arm of our family of companies, Rand Cares. This Thanksgiving, Rand Cares is going to feed thousands of children by partnering with the Second Harvest Food Bank of Tennessee. We've already fed 6,000 kids. We're 1 week into it. Maybe the new number's 20,000. I don't know, but we're kicking down doors. Second Harvest Food Bank is a tremendous organization that has paved the way for trying to end hunger in our community. Their commitment is to use 96 cents out of every dollar to go directly towards their cause, which is our cause. We are also so incredibly excited to be partnering with them on such an important issue. I think that we can all agree that children should not go hungry any time of the year, and especially during the holidays. If you'd like to join the cause and do your part, click on the link at the top of our homepage, jakeandgino.com. Click on the food drive, and let's make it happen together. Our food drive will run from November 1st to November 16th. So let's do it. G-Dad, do I got your commitment on this one?
I'm locked and loaded already. I think it's an awesome endeavor that we're doing. It's the first year. And that's what happens when you become financially free and you can start building businesses. You can start thinking about others. That's why I want everyone on the call to start focusing on that. So you can start focusing, growing your life and helping grow other people's lives. Right, Jake?
Absolutely. So I'm going to introduce our next guest before we shake him down for a donation here. Today's guest is Matt Easton. Matt is YouTube's king of apartment marketing. His Lease University videos, seminars, and books have simplified how the industry leases apartments. His mission in life is to bring apartment communities more traffic and help property managers sign more leases. So without further ado, Matt, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, guys. It's a pleasure to be here.
Hey, Matt.
Hey, thanks for being here. And how did you get into apartment marketing? I mean, that's a very dialed-in niche. You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I was in apartment consulting for many years. I was also an owner and investor myself, but my whole gig many years ago was essentially an arbitrage relationship. So I would take smaller owners that maybe had anything from 20 units on up to a couple thousand units, and I would lump them in a big pool and aggregate their pricing with the Wilmars, the Sherwin-Williams, the Maintenance USAs of the world to get lower pricing. A couple things happened around 2004-ish. Number one, the economy started to dry up a little bit, and suddenly the smaller owners and operators like ourselves were able to get that lower pricing, which put some pressure on my job. But number two, a lot of my clients started saying, boy, we've got to be on Google. You know, we've got to make these phones ring. How can you help us make phones ring? And so I went out and signed contracts with all the apartment marketing companies out there. And probably like a lot of the folks on this call and maybe the two of you, I was less than excited and less than thrilled with the results that I was getting from other apartment marketing companies. Fortunately, one of my clients actually went to Babson University with many of the folks that started Google and is a fourth generation owner, operator, developer, but IT is in his blood, computers are his passion. And he said, hey, you know, give me a few bucks and some interns and I'll rank all of our properties on Google. That worked out so well that in 2007, I left the consulting gig and became one of the founders of Multifamily Traffic. Now we have over 500 communities across the country, and that's what we do all day, every day, is make the phones ring with hot, qualified local people looking to rent one of those apartments that our clients have.
Matt, before we get into how to lease them and the process itself, what have you seen change over the last 10 years in marketing apartments? What's been the biggest change?
You know, great question, Gino. I think that the biggest change has been the slow adoption move over to the internet. And I say that in not such a good way. And what I mean by that is, and we can get into this in a little bit, I'm very, very passionate on cash flow. You know, Jake talked about biz dev, acquisition, syndications. We want to feed the kids. We want to give to charity. We want to grow our portfolios. We want to expand. We can't do any of that without cash flow. And the only way to get cash flow is to get these units occupied at the highest possible rent. Unfortunately, you know, in the past, Gino, it's all been about things like baking cookies, putting balloons outside, you know, putting a for rent sign outside your place. Well, in the last 10 years, we can't even get somebody to look up when they run over your kid on the bicycle, because you know the new Snapchat filter is just the bomb. So all of that kind of drive-by marketing has really lost its way, and the industry has found the internet. But unfortunately, Gino, they found the internet in the wrong ways. And I'd love to give your audience some tips there on how, one, they can control their spend. Because, you know, I'm a big fan more of the bottom line than the top line. You know, if we've got the top line more than the bottom line, if we've got cash flow coming in, that kind of solves everything. But at the same time, if you're wasting a lot of your marketing dollars, you know, that's gonna really take away a lot of that top line growth. So a couple things that are happening now is, you know, you've got your ILSs, which they're great. I don't want to say anything bad. I don't want CoStar sending the sniper out to kill me, but you guys feel it every year. It gets more and more expensive to advertise on apartments.com and apartments and for rent, apartment guide. And every year that market gets more cluttered and more noisy. So long answer, but the short synopsis is there, Gino. What's happened in the last 10 years is people know the internet exists, and I think they're starting to realize that every apartment search starts on Google now, but I don't think the average owner investor has a good enough understanding of how that works, and that leads them to be victim to, one, marketers, and also victim to their property managers who are saying, hey, I just need you to spend more and more and more on marketing and lower your rent, Gino. Gino, we're $500 too much on our 2 bedrooms. You just got to drop the price, buddy. All of that is what happens when you don't understand how apartment marketing works and you don't understand how to lease units.
So Matt, let me jump into this question. I think this is important for every investor out there. What mistakes do you see mom and pops making in their marketing? Because I know Jake and I will be closing on a deal in a couple of weeks. The rents are $200 below market. Now you think, hey, it's 100% occupied. That's terrific. But to us, that's an epic fail because your NOI is so drastically reduced. So these mom and pops are actually,
yes,
I don't know what they're doing wrong. Can you just, you know, dive into what mistakes you see the average mom and pop making?
You bet. So in my opinion, with all due respect, because there's a lot of things people need to focus on, and I know you guys really are the masters of giving them those basic fundamental skills, and there's a lot of areas that I'm not going to cover, but what's most passionate to me and gets me going on the cash flow side is, number one, they don't understand how apartment marketing works. And what I mean by that is, if you were going to buy a Chick-fil-A, or you were going to buy a Subway, before they would ever give you the keys to your franchise, you would have a deep, deep, deep understanding of how the promotions work, how the pricing works, how the product is going to be marketed, you know, what radio spots are we going to do, and you would have in your franchise, you would have somebody assisting you with all of that. An owner and investor has none of that, especially the mom and pops that you talked about, Gino. And they spend a lot of time, you know, they go to, you guys had a terrific event there in Tennessee a while back. They go there, they get fired up, they find the right investment, it's priced right, they buy it, they get everything else in place, and they kind of tend to leave that marketing piece behind, and they think, oh, well, that's just an easy one to do. So they have a lack of a general understanding of how marketing works. The other piece of that puzzle is, and I'll go back to my franchise example. If you're going to buy a Subway or you're going to buy a Chick-fil-A, you better know how to make a sub sandwich at the end of the day, because you're the buck stops with you, right? So if Skippy decides that, the Halloween party the night before was just too off the hook and he's not going to show up and work at your property, well, you're going to have to step in and take over and tour those units. A lot of owners and operators think that today it's as simple as, putting something out on Craigslist, letting the phone ring, have it go to voicemail, follow up on those voicemails, show them the unit. And Gino, you can get leases doing that, but you just hit the nail on the head of what happens. You end up having a building that is underpriced. Your NOI is completely sideways. If, as an owner and operator, if you understand, number one, how the marketing process works and how to maximize your dollar, and number two, how to convert that dollar into a lease and into cash flow, you're going to be in a lot of trouble.
Mm-hmm. I like that. So real quick, what are your favorite social media platforms to use when you're marketing?
I'll be honest, and this may be a bit controversial, but I am not a huge fan of social media with apartments. So
me either.
Yeah, thank you. Here's my thought on it. And again, I respect anybody else's opinion out there if they're doing great with it. But I don't know if we have video on the podcast or if it's just audio. But I'm doing this thing with my hands where I'm opening and closing them. I call this the precious present. And it's like a clam chomp. What's that?
I said he's doing the gator chomp right now.
Yeah, I'm doing the gator chomp. So what I mean by that, when I'm doing that is, all right, so social media is great if you're selling T-shirts, if you're selling fidget spinners, if you're selling tacos, if you're selling a new, workout program, all great. Why? Middle of the night, I can't sleep. It's 2:30 in the morning. I'm scrolling through my Facebook. I'm scrolling through my Instagram. I see some buff dude in a tank top with a 900 pack abs, and he's got, boy, I want to buy that tank top because I'm going to look like him. And I wake up the next morning, I'm like, what the hell did I do? And 2 weeks later, a package arrives with a $15 tank top, and I'm still not fit. Apartments, it's not like that. I gave a speech in Dallas a little while ago. There were 700 people in the room, and I said, I wanted to run a little social experiment. I said, all right, everybody, good news, bad news. Good news is you just got a promotion. You're all making $980,000. There may be a few of you in the room. Now, these were people that worked at REITs, so they weren't like your people that are owners and operators. There's probably a lot of your people that are making more than that a year. But these were your normal average apartment managers. So for most of them, $980,000 would be a big pay raise. I said, that's the good news. The bad news is you all have to move to Orlando for 1 year. I said, so stop what you're doing right now. I want everybody to find an apartment in Orlando, knowing that you make $980,000. Find whatever apartment you think best suits your needs. I just need you to have a phone number of an apartment community call to schedule a tour. Raise your hand when you're done. I kid you not, within 30 seconds, half of the room had their hand raised. I stopped at 3 minutes because I couldn't count hands. It was like 700 people, but it seemed to me like most everybody in the room had found an apartment within 3 minutes. So then I asked them, I said, okay, great. You've all found an apartment. How many of you went to Facebook to find an apartment? 0 hands raised. So how many of you went to Instagram to find an apartment? No hands went up. Now here's the really interesting thing. I said, how many of you went to apartments.com to find an apartment? Out of 700 people, 2 hands raised. So nobody's even, forget going to your social media, nobody's even typing in apartments.com. I said, how many people either went to Siri or Google and said luxury apartments in Orlando or apartments in Orlando? And everybody's hand went up. That's what you do. And so that's why I'm not a huge fan of social media, although I think it's great and I think it will help you with your branding. Unless you're a gray star and you can just afford to throw money out and have somebody like Jake that just sits there all day, every day and posts stuff up on your feed, you need to catch a hot, qualified local prospect right when they're looking. The way that is Google. Even if you are advertising through the ILSs, this is part of just knowing how the system works. You're still advertising on Google. What you're doing is they're advertising on Google. They're ranked on Google. You're renting their position on Google from them. by advertising with them. But know this, everybody starts by saying 2-bedroom apartment in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, or 2-bedroom apartment in Denver, Colorado. Then they're finding the ILS, and then they're hopefully finding your green triangle, hopefully calling you and scheduling a lease. But nobody's going to Instagram. And so what I would do if I were an operator, I would leave the social media to all the big boys, because what that's going to do is trigger somebody to say, oh, you know what? I saw that apartment community ad. That's right. My lease is up December 5th. I better start looking for an apartment. And then I'm going to make sure that I'm right there in their face on Google when they take the time out to look for that apartment. So number one, I don't think anybody looks on social media. Number two, nobody looks for apartments for fun. They don't just, oh man, I got nothing to do on a Saturday. You know, I'm going to check out the new apartment communities. Cars, for example, we do that. So you could be on social with cars and gradually get somebody like Jake's attention on the new Tahoe for 2 years, even though he's not on the market. And then he comes on the market and goes, man, you know, I've been watching that Tahoe and on their Instagram for 2 years. I want to buy it. Nobody even thinks about an apartment unless they need to rent one. You have to catch them, you have to connect with them, and you have to close them. And nowadays, you better do that really quick. And I have some data supported from one of our clients that has over 200 communities on with us that shows not only do you need to answer the phone right when they call, but if you don't answer the phone, you need to follow up with them within about an hour, or your probability to close that lease starts to drop very, very dramatically, to where you wait a couple days to call somebody back. You have basically a 0 chance of closing that lease.
I love that. Do you have any tips on a website? We have a property management website. Do you have any tips for somebody looks you up on Google, hits you up? First thing they do, I would assume, is they go right to your website, correct?
Yeah, great question. And I think for your crowd, this goes to getting taken advantage of apartment marketing companies. You know, let's say I've got a mixed portfolio and I've got a 4-plex, I've got an 8-plex, and a couple single family homes. A lot of times the marketing companies will say, oh, you know, don't have your own website, Gino. You can't afford to do that. You know, just advertise with us, whatever their mode is. Here's the thing. The website companies will probably get a hitman for telling you this too. They want you to spend $20,000 on a website. I have seen some of the simplest, ugliest websites out there convert into leases like you wouldn't believe. And what's funny is the more expensive and the more complicated websites, go and look at some of these luxury communities that are going up. A lot of them, and I would say a good 20% of them, I challenge you to even find the phone number. We have to remember, what is the job of the website? And where these marketing people, and with all due respect, because I guess I am a marketing person, you know, these large REITs, they hire these kids out of college. These kids they don't have skin in the game. They've never bought a unit. They've never worked in the leasing office. But boy, they can do the Madison Avenue marketing spin with the best of them. And they said, oh, I need $100,000 and I need a beta test and we're going to build this big, huge website. And they forget that the job of the website, all the job is to make that prospect called a leasing office. And it's the leasing managers, the leasing agent, the property manager's job to greet the prospect, identify their wants and needs, select a unit and build value in that unit, make a proposal, and close them. None of those 5 things, a website can do none of those. So my advice to you on the website is you can keep it very, very simple, and you can have a generalized website. Let's say you have a number of different properties in Iowa City, Iowa. You can have a very general website that has a few nice photos on it, and then basically just enough messaging to say, call us right now. We are in a hurry to help you. No matter what you are looking for, we will help you find the best new apartment home. Call us, and the phone number is right there at the top. It's at the bottom, and it's in the middle, and your phone will ring. And you don't even have to rank that website. You know, we do Google organic SEO. We also do AdWords. What a lot of investors don't know is a very small website, you can run a Google AdWords campaign and compete with the biggest of the bigs get in, get your units leased for maximum rent, and then turn off that AdWords spend. So you could say, I want to spend $3,000 this month, and I want to get 18 units leased, and then I want to turn it off next month. You can do all of that with a very simple website, Gino. You do not need a really, really complicated website.
I love that answer, because I think a lot of us get caught up in what is the website for. I mean, you want to maybe throw a video testimonial on there. Maybe you want to show a little video of what the apartment looks like, so the lead gets qualified before he calls, so he knows what he's looking for. But I totally agree with you. You don't need to spend a ton of money. I love what you're talking about with the customer journey, the customer experience. I'm a big reader, as Jake knows. There's a book from Joey Coleman called Never Lose a Customer. It's the customer journey, the customer experience. And what you nailed it. You nailed it right, right on the head. Can you talk about that customer journey and that experience and that perfect leasing process?
Absolutely. So this is where, you talked about what's changed in the industry, Gino. Mm-hmm. You just hit on what hasn't changed. Now, for our listeners that are out there listening to this today, there's probably a handful of them that are working at the large REITs that are saving up their money because, they want to create their own empire here. But most of the people listening aren't even affiliated with those big REITs. This is a tremendous weakness of the entire industry that a smaller owner, operator, investor can take advantage of right now, today. It costs them $0, and they will have a unique competitive advantage over a $15 billion portfolio with, call it 50,000 units right now today. Why? Because the industry, here, I'm going to tell you what the industry's journey is. And it's been like this for 30 years. And the market has changed so much over the last 5 to 10. People are getting killed. I'm going to throw a bunch of money into advertising. I'm going to put balloons out in front of my property. I'm going to say now leasing. I'm going to hire Susan. Susan's going to have a bad attitude. She's not going to answer the phone because, God forbid, it could be Jake trying to call her to collect money to feed some kids. It could be a current resident with an issue. It could be a maintenance request. So, God forbid, answer our telephone, all right? Then when it does go to voicemail, I maybe check that once a day. I'll check it the next day. If it's a prospect, I'll call them back when I get around to it. And then when they show up in the leasing office, you can't get these people to even get out of their chair. I can't tell you how many properties I've gone to where they're like, oh yeah, I've even seen people give me your driver's license and I'll give you the key and go, do a self-guided tour of the property.
We've seen that.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
So let me walk you through the perfect leasing process. And there's a lot of science and, massive eggheads with IQs in New Mexico working on this in the nuclear propulsion laboratories. It's that complicated. And I'm making a joke. It's not complicated. Here's what you guys need to do. You need to greet the prospect, okay? What I mean by greet the prospect is you need to answer your phone. When the phone in the leasing office rings, it needs to be answered, preferably within 3 rings. If you own properties and your property managers are not answering the phone, you need to retrain them, reframe them, or fire them. There's no point in you having somebody on payroll that's not going to answer your phone. Now, when they answer the phone, and they can find me on YouTube. All they have to do is search apartment marketing on YouTube. You'll find my videos. There's some very specific language. I like words. It's a great day at Jake Apartments. And instead of saying, how can I help you? Or my name's Jake. What can I get you information on? That triggers the person's brain that we're getting down to business right now. Oh, I'd like it. I'm looking for 2-bedroom apartments. Fantastic. My name's Matt. What's your name? Oh, my name's Jake. Jake, tell me a little bit about what you're looking at. Now I've already transitioned from greeting the prospect to what's the next step? Determining wants and needs. And I know we have a limited time on the podcast, but a want and a need is not a 2-bedroom apartment. A want and a need is not an apartment under $900. A want is, I need a 2-bedroom apartment because I'm using the 2nd bedroom as a home office and I work out of my home every day. A want is, I need a 2-bedroom apartment because I'm a single dad and my daughter stays with me every other week. A want is, I need an apartment under $900 because I just got employed by 3M. It's my first job out of college. I don't have a car. I'm trying to find an apartment that I can afford, that I can ride my bike to the 3M office over on First and Broadway. This is how you identify wants and needs. None of the big REITs, none of the big operators, none of their people are doing any of this. So when somebody comes in to look for that unit, how can they sell them if they can't say, Jake, you told me that your daughter is with you every other week. I've got this perfect 2-bedroom. It's right in your range. What I really love about it is you don't have to share a bathroom with your daughter. So she can come, she's got her own stuff. You don't have to walk through a cosmetics grenade every time your 15-year-old daughter is using the bathroom. Boom, boom, boom. So first 2 steps of that perfect leasing process: greet the prospect, determine wants and needs. Then you're going to select a unit and build value in that unit. Again, the industry doesn't do this. They'll show up. Hey, Jake, great to see you. Thanks for showing up. Let me tour you through the whole. They make them walk through the whole community. They make them walk through, 5 different floor plans. It should sound something like this. Jake, you told me that it's very important for you to be on a higher floor. We're a garden-style apartment. I've got one on our 3rd floor. You're going to use that 2nd bedroom as an office. I've got a perfect size 2nd bedroom that works as an office, and it's going to save you a few bucks because it's a smaller bedroom. It's unit 302. That's the one I'm going to show you first. And when we walk in, we're going to turn to the right, and we're going to be in your office. And I even took a look at it. I would position the desk right by, there's a little deck off there right by the deck so you could step out. Let's go, follow me. That's how selecting a unit should be. None of these property managers are doing their homework and selecting. I'm going to show you this. This is why I'm going to show it to you. Does that match what you had in mind? Did I miss anything? So they missed that. Then make a proposal. You should always, I call it my sword and shield. You should always have a notepad with you and a Sharpie or a pretty dark pen. As you're walking through the unit, you write the price of the unit down. This one's $980. You underline it, you circle it, you draw little squares around it. When they say, oh, I like the office, you write like office or the word office. There's something that triggers that in the person's brain when they see you putting pen to paper. You are, even though it's not a formal offer and you're not signing the lease, you're making an offer by writing it down. You can point with your pen and your paper to the piece of paper, $980. We can shut this down today. We can lock this down. We can make this yours. Are we good to go? Constantly proposing them, closing them. Then the last step is easy. You walk down to the leasing office, you close them, and you sign the lease. You find when you run them through that 5-step system, greet, determine wants and needs, select a unit, build value, make a proposal, and close, you get maybe 2 to 3 objections tops. When you just call somebody back on voicemail, don't determine what they want, have them show up, walk them through the fitness center, even though they're 350 pounds and they're diabetic, and make them have to look at somebody on the treadmill, and then walk them through a 1-bedroom, show them your 1-bedroom model because that's your tour. When they said they need a 2-bedroom, you know what you get? You get 52 objections. You don't know what's a complaint from an actual valid objection. You can't close them, and you end up needing 10 times more leads to close those units.
I love that. So I'm reading another book right now, Same Side Selling. And it comes to mind, that fit, finding impact together. So you're basically walking through that process where you're finding impact from what you have to what they need. And basically sales is all about trying to find out what they need and trying to match them. And it's so intuitive, right? It makes so much sense, but I'm assuming the majority of people out there don't do that. Am I correct?
Gino, you're absolutely correct. And it's because we get nervous. And there's a lot of weird psychology that happens in our mind. And we think that if we're not talking, we sound stupid, and that we need to be the expert. So what you'll find if you go and shop your competition is somebody will either not engage with you at all, or they won't shut up, and they show up and they throw up, but there's no consultative, Jake, Gino, why is this important to you? Jake, does this match what you had in mind? You'll never hear this from a property manager. I'm going to show you this, this, and this because I feel like this is the most important to you. Does that match what you had in mind? Did I miss anything? Nobody asks that. Oh my God, I'm never going to put that out there that I may have missed something. Here's another question they never ask. Hey, Gino, when we talked on the phone, you told me you needed a 2-bedroom, you need to be in there by the 15th. What's changed? I just gave your people a dynamite piece of information. They can close 10% more leases just by using that one thing. When somebody comes in, recap and sword and shield, you took your notes on the call, recap your notes and say, hey, has anything changed or what's changed? You'll be surprised when people go, yeah, you know what? Now that I asked, I told you I needed to be in a place for under $1,100. I went and looked at 3 other properties. It was all total dumps for $1,100. So you might want to show me a little bit nicer unit, than you thought, because I've now come to realize what apartments in this town really do cost. Or I told you I needed to be in a place by December 1st. I actually checked with my leasing manager. I need to be out by November 15th. Those are all critical pieces of information that nobody asks that. And I don't know why, but they don't have a human-to-human conversation like 2 friends would have or 2 trusted people would have with each other.
Mm-hmm. Before we get to the short answers, I want Jake to share the story of the property we bought last year in December. When we were buying this property, he walks into the leasing office. It's 100% occupied. Jake, what was the leasing agent doing? I love when you tell the story. So.
No, it was an interview, and her whole thing was that she did not want to raise rents. They're 150 roughly under market, and the reason she didn't want to raise rents is because people were going to push back, and that was going to prevent her from reading her Danielle Steele smut book, and people were going to give her pushback. So she wanted to keep the rents down because she wanted to read the Danielle Steele. And I learned early on from my grandfather that you can only allow so much smut book in your life or it starts to corrode and to just wipe things out. So you got to be very careful, folks, with the Danielle Steele. That's all.
It's a gateway drug.
It really is. Maybe 1 or 2 Danielle Steele books a month. If you're doing 3 or 4, it really does start to go downhill quick.
But the amazing thing to me was she was on a job interview and she was telling Jake that. That's what I found to be amazing. We had our leasing, we had our area regional manager with Jake. We're doing the interview, and it didn't dawn on her that, hello, you're not doing your job, and you're telling your potential boss that you're not doing your job. To me, it's mind-boggling. So that's another thing with sales, guys. It's 80% listening and 20% talking. Just let these people hang themselves because they will, because they're just – what a useless person that is. And she was not getting paid a little bit of money. She was getting compensated very nicely to run a property inefficiently. So I always talk to my students about that thing. Hey, listen, that's where you start. You start with the tenants and you start with the leasing agent and see what their processes are. And that's how you can see if there's value in the property, if there's true value. She's telling you the last 3 years they haven't raised rents. And when you know rents have been going up an average of 5% over the last 3 years, on top of the fact that they're low already, that's where you have tremendous value in that. So.
And you always want to know why. You always think that, okay, am I missing something? Is there a reason that they haven't been connecting? And I'm like, it can't be because of Danielle Steele. And you just had to sit there long enough and hear the story to realize, no, it actually was because of Danielle Steele. And I mean, great book. Fabio on the cover looked wonderful, had nice hair like Josh used to. But, it just, I'm always looking to, poke holes in it because it's like, it can't be this simple, but it really was, fortunately for us. So.
And you guys hit on, I would say, the second most common question that I get from people that follow my YouTube channel and subscribe to my free apartment marketing tips. So the first question I always get is, how do I get the phones to ring with more hot qualified local prospects? The second question I get above all the others, besides how do I make the phones ring, is how do I find good talent? How do I hire good talent? And they expect me to have some secret answer of like, there's this pool that you can go to and there's these great property managers that aren't reading smut books all day and that will get out of their chair. I don't have an answer to that. There is no secret to that. The employment pool pretty much sucks. And unfortunately, the people with industry experience, most of them are even worse than somebody that has no experience at all because they've been trained with all the wrong habits. So here's my answer to that. As the marketing guy's answer, my answer would be this, is if you can focus on making the phones ring with qualified prospects, and you work with Jake, you work with Gino, your place is priced right, okay? And you know that you can get that rent. Even though that's high, that rent's possible to get. And if you can work with somebody like me and we make the phones ring, at that point, you can just say, I trust my process on the backside. I know I've consulted with these guys and I'm priced right. I worked with the right marketing guy and I have the right input. Now I know that if that person is not closing, I give them a limited amount of time to either ask me for help, to change their ways, or to find a new job, period. We think that we can just go out and hire these people and trust them to run our property. You're asking for it. You almost deserve it. If you just hire some property manager because they told you they have 20 years of experience, I would not go into business with you if you said, hey, you put up 40% of the cash, I'll put up 60% of the cash. I've got this great lady I'm going to hire because she's got 20 years of experience. You better be auditing her and making sure that she's doing her dang job, or else you're doing a disservice to yourself and your fellow investors.
One thing that I love that you keep coming back to is get off your butt, because we actually have our regional who's in the room next door to me. I should bring her in right now. Her biggest pet peeve is when someone walks in the door, the leasing agent does not get up to greet the person. She will ride somebody out of that office quicker than anything for people that will not get off your butt and greet you. That drives her absolutely nuts. And the other thing that you're hitting on here is we've found that people with the experience have not been problem solvers. We're looking for people with attitude, ethics, that are problem solvers, and we don't really care what your history, your background has been, because this is not rocket science. We can teach. We want people that have customer service, because I truly believe the blue ocean in the C&B apartment space is that folks have not gotten proper customer service and have not had their issues taken care of. So if you want to differentiate yourself in this game, if you're in the C&B space, get out there and give folks proper service, show them customer service in the leasing office, and you are going to be leased up quicker than shit. Get the Google right, because you want to get them in the door, but then it's taking that and providing a quality experience for these people. And that is the gap in so many of these, in these communities.
It's the greatest amenity in the world.
Yep.
How many times does somebody come and say, hey, you guys don't have a dog wash, you know? And if you can come back and say, yeah, well, they don't have Jake. And Jake's here every day. Jake has your back. Jake gives a crap about you. And Jake is ready to go at any time, whatever the problem is, I'm going to solve it for you. That is the greatest amenity in the world. You ask anybody that owns their own home and has lived in their own home, the one thing that makes them jealous about apartments is, God dang it. I mean, my water heater went out last month. My furnace went out this month. I got to deal with all that crap. Wouldn't it be nice to just have a Jake and to call Jake in the office? And by the way, and not to get off on a tangent here, if Jake is getting up and greeting everybody with a smile, what do you think, Mike, the maintenance guy, what do you think his life is like? What do you think the level of expectation is when Mike says, hey, I can't get to your water heater today? No problem, Mike. When you have an office where nobody gets up, nobody greets anybody, now all of a sudden the maintenance guy is expected to fix everything instantaneously, because you treat the customer like a robot, they're going to treat you like a robot. So, I mean, it affects your entire portfolio, having that person in that leasing office. Their eye contact and their smile sets the tone for everything else.
Right on, right on. All right. I know you're the Google guy, and I completely agree with that. But I still, because you're the expert here, I want to get your input on the Zillow versus apartments war that's brewing right now.
Yep.
And where you would, if you were going to go beyond Google and place money anywhere, where you would put your money and why?
Here's the thing. I would put my money in apartments.com, not because it's marketing. Because when I think of marketing is, it needs to be something that's going to give me a competitive advantage. I believe that apartments.com is more like if we were playing poker, it's your buy-in, everybody's there. So I would choose one ILS. And there is some markets where apartments.com is not the dominant, where Rent is, or Apartment Guide. I figure out what the dominant ILS is in my market, and I put my money there. Me personally, right now, I would not do Zillow. I think Zillow is more for single-family home buyers. Very, very expensive. And they're one of, here's the thing. Our fundamentals our company are this. You can tell that we're owned by people that own apartments. Our service is month to month. We make the phones ring or you get leases. If you don't get leases, you fire us. Zillow, their pricing is astronomical off the board, and they will hit you with like a 4-inch thick binder of bits, bytes, blinking lights, smoke and mirrors. This we geo-fenced this classroom of this school district, and all of this stuff that's designed to confuse you and make you think that there's a lot going on. It's not that complicated. Either people that are looking for an apartment are calling you or they're not. And either your partner will put up or shut up and say, I'll make the phones ring with people that are calling you, or they won't. And there's so many companies out there where you say, hey, I'm going to cancel. And they say, oh, well, you're locked in for another 3 months. And by the way, we need you to get on this call with Steven. And Steven's in Boise, and he doesn't understand anything about apartments, but he's going to throw some, big words at you. And he carries a backpack and a MacBook. So you better listen to what he has to say, because he also has a mustache and a bike with no brakes on it. So Steven knows a lot more than you do. That's what you get with a lot of those companies. Not saying Zillow, but let's just say another company that it sounds like Schmillo, because I don't want to get in trouble.
Wow, man, bringing the heat. I love it. All right, going to transition a little bit from the personal growth side of things. What is your best habit for success?
Great question. What I have found my best habit for success, and the days that I don't do this, I feel it. I don't care how busy your day is, you need to take 3 minutes, take a sheet of paper. I know we have a lot of technology out there, and technology is great. I'm a big fan of legal pads and pens and paper. Take 5 minutes every day, write down what you're going to do each day. Write down the 3 or 4 things that you need to accomplish that day. I need to call Gino. I need to follow up on that boiler. Your daily plan. I'm telling you, it will make a difference. If you don't set a plan for your day will go completely haywire, especially if you're looking at expanding yourself and building a portfolio. You get in the habit of planning your day and planning your time. I know it's not sexy, but
I think it's real sexy. I think it's money sexy, because that shit does work.
It works each and every, and you do it. I saw your plan there. The days that you don't do that, what happens on your day?
I always do it.
Okay.
Literally the last 10 years, I have not skipped a beat. I'm ridiculously disciplined, and I execute. True story.
Yeah, that's anybody out there, just follow him, do that. If you just write, and I'm not saying you have to write down at 11:15, I'm going to do this. You write the major things that you're going to get done, and you get those things done. Now, when you really start getting to a high level, you'll start writing down 8 things and you only get 6 done, but you get stuff done. When you show up every day with no plan, you maybe get 20% accomplished of what you could have got accomplished.
So Jake,
it's all right, because it can go over to the next day, or it can go to the back of the sheet, and then it'll still get picked up, but I'm not missing it. So it's even keeping me that much more organized. G-Dad, didn't mean to interrupt.
No, that's okay. Here's another book recommendation. Easy book for everyone to read out there. It's called The War of Art by Pressfield. Garrett Gunderson recommended it to us last week. I've already read it. Easy read. But what Matt is talking about is resistance. It's grinding it out. It's doing your work every single day. Don't worry about 5 years from now. You're going to hear that little inner voice about fear. You have to sit in front of the computer, and as Pressfield said, just knock it out every day. It doesn't matter how bad it is. We have that fear inside of us, the critics telling us we can't do it. Get out of that and just grind it out. And what he's talking about is you're activating your subconscious when you're writing down a piece of paper, and you're more willing and able to do it. But just sit in front of the computer, sit in front of your job, and just show up every day. And every day will turn into a week, will turn into 2 weeks, will turn into a month, will turn into a year. And those little steps will finally lead to your goals 5 years from now. Don't worry about 5 years from now. You have work to do today. Get to it today. And that's resistance, bro. Seriously, it's an easy book. I actually recommend it to you. Get it on Audible. You'll love it, because it'll resonate with you. Because people are always worried about, oh, you know what, should I do it? Shouldn't I do it? And I have all the excuses. You know what? It took him a long time before he got his first book published, but he just sat there and ground it out. So I totally agree with both you guys.
Guys, can I get your thoughts on another idea that I have? And I'm interested to hear what you guys think, because it's hard for people like me to find people like you to connect with.
Of course.
So I'm a big fan of writing it down and having the plan. Another thing that has helped me, and I wonder if I'm just a weirdo or not, a couple years ago, And I say this because today is an election day. A couple years ago, I pretty much just stopped spending time, watching the news in my car. I turned my car into kind of a library. I do books on audio. I was going to say tape and date myself a little bit there, but audio MP3. I listen to books. I think if you can cut out as much of that, and I know we talked about social media and it's fun, but if you can limit a lot of the noise coming in and stay focused, you would be surprised, at least I've been surprised at how much everybody else around me thinks the world is going to hell. And I'm just accomplishing goal after goal after goal because I wake up every day, I write my stuff down, I focus on it, I don't get sidetracked. What are your guys' thoughts on, letting other interferences come in?
Yeah, no doubt. I think it really does come back to mindset, comes back to attitude and self-awareness. And you literally have to protect this. And it's like boxing a guy out. You're playing basketball, you're rebounding. And when you're letting that, it's evil shit. I'm just going to call it what it is. It's a lot of evil shit. And I think people talk about the New World Order. I think the goal of this is to divide us as citizens. Okay. So I don't want to get too political, but all this shit is meant to divide us. It's not actually meant to accomplish anything. So all this marketing that comes in from all these outlets is meant to divide us. So if I can keep that out, I can keep a fresh mindset here, and I'm accomplishing things. I'm leapfrogging ahead of all these other idiots that are out there getting consumed with this, and that's pulling them down and then affecting them. So it's actually giving me such a ridiculous competitive advantage because I'm not obsessing and literally just festering in that muck that I'm going to blow past so many people because I'm doing me, and that's my take on it.
I love it. You said it great.
I read a story, I think the other day, or I saw the clip of it, that in Silicon Valley, there's a school where all these tech guys and they send their children. It's a school that's free zone with no screens because they don't want their kids going to school looking at iTabs and iPads because they know how damaging and they know how bad it is for children and how addicting it is for kids. So if you can try to get that gratification for the kids, I have, my kids, we homeschool. So during the day, they don't need an iPad, they don't need an iTab, they don't need anything on Facebook. So during the day, we don't have phones on. Phones are off. I mean, in the afternoon, in the evening, if they want to text their friends, whatever, but at least that time during the day, they should be off the phone and be concentrating on school because you don't need technology to go to school. I mean, if you want to use Google, that's one thing, but there's books. Let's learn the old-fashioned way of how to learn because it's all there. And I agree with Jake. I mean, I challenge anybody out there. Dean Graziosi wrote it, the 30-day diet. If you can do 30-day diet of news, it's the resistance. It's that one little step. Try it for a day, you'll fail. Try it for 2 days, and you might fail, but continue. And I will tell you one thing, your level of energy will rise because all that negativity in there it's eating at you. And I fall prey to it. I mean, late at night, sit in front of the TV with the wife for a few minutes, and you're like, but you can feel the anger. You can feel the energy coming through the TV, and they're only fighting. And it's just, there's no solutions. It's the same thing. Like you can turn on the TV 50 years ago, and they're talking about the same thing where we're divided. 50% like Democrats, 50% like Republicans. It's been like that for the last 50, 60 years. Nothing has changed. It's just more hyperbolic now. There's more outlets and there's more places to get your news. But it's basically the same thing. So don't kid yourself out there. That's my 2 cents on it. So.
I have 4 books going right now, and they're all audiobooks. So the what's going into my mind is PMA. It's positive mental attitude. I'm getting a lot of good going in, a lot of growth, and that's what it's all about. If that's what you want to do, if your jam is personal growth development and creating, like my whole thing is I got this vision of this massive company that we're creating. It's a big steel ship that's more assets. We're building it up, and it's going to be there for a long time. That's what I'm doing. That's what I'm about. And I don't think by sitting there listening to the rot or reading Danielle Steele is going to get me any closer to my goals that I enjoy in life.
And I think a lot of your listeners out there, I mean, they don't even have to have the wealth right now. Let's say they're not an accredited investor. They have nothing they can't even get out of their first deal. Instead of watching the news and just wasting time, they could be listening to your podcast. They could be going out and driving by potential deals and kind of, even though they can't buy those deals right now, they could be researching them. Here's what I would buy this for. Here's how I would lease it. Here's how I would hire people so that when they are ready and they do have the money, they're that much better. I mean, I think a lot of people think, oh, well, I can't get in right now, so I'm not even going to study and learn that until I can get in. You can become a master at something And then once you can put the money together to get in your first deal, you're that much ahead of everybody else.
I love that because the market is
two more questions for you. Oh, go ahead, Gino. What were you going to say? I didn't hear.
I have to piggyback off what you said because it's really important. Anybody out there who wants to get into multifamily, it's never the right time. You have to learn. So then when the opportunities do come, you can at least identify the opportunities. And it's not about the money, because if you have the opportunity, the money will come to you, whether you're going to syndicate, whether you're going to partner, whether you're going to finance, whether you're going to refi and roll. It's not the money. It's the ability to actually see the opportunity. And if you don't educate yourself now, the opportunities can come 12 months from now, 18 months from now, 24 months from now. But once you learn how to identify the opportunity, that's your skill set. Your skill, that's yours forever. So I totally agree with Matt. Jump on board now. If it's your time, stop the resistance, read The War of Art, and get going.
Just to keep with that, we didn't get a book reco from you, and I love getting book recommendations from everybody. Anything that's going to add value to someone's life. Doesn't have to be anything specific.
I am right now. I'm reading this book, Sales EQ, by a guy named Jeb Blunt. The interesting thing here, and this may be kind of hard for some of your readers, but the whole design of the book is the world I used to come from, big corporate enterprise sales. So there's some stuff in there that won't help you in the leasing office, but a lot of it is very, he focuses on the EQ versus the IQ, the understanding somebody's emotional hot buttons, realizing you have to connect to them. It's been a great help for me. There's been a lot of eye-opening moments.
Self-awareness is just like the older I get, it's so important. And I work on it every day, and I'm not saying I'm an expert at it by any means, but my God, if you get that right, you're going to be unstoppable.
Yeah, can I give you a quick example from the book? Less than a minute. So he talks about the theory of cognitive dissonance, which I'm using big PhD words here, but essentially cognitive dissonance, I'm going to dumb it down for everybody, means Jake doesn't want to admit that he made a mistake. And where we get that wrong a lot of times when we're leasing an apartment, somebody will say, oh, I'm living over at the Towers right now. And immediately the leasing agent will say, how do I make my apartment community sound better than the Towers? And how do I talk smack about the Towers? But what they don't realize, what's going on in Jake's mind, if I talk a bunch of smack about the Towers, Jake then is put in a position of cognitive dissonance where he has to admit, gosh darn it, I made a mistake and I was a fool for signing the lease there. I better move over here. And you'll get the lease a good percent of the time. But if you have an awareness of what's going on in Jake's psychology and spin it and say something like this, listen, Jake, the Towers is great for some people. I'm sure it was the best decision for you at the time that you signed the lease. But tell me a little bit more about what's changed in your life since you signed that lease, or what's changed at the Towers. Suddenly you put Jake in a win-win where he can go, yeah, I was the smartest guy in the world when I signed that lease, but I'll tell you what's changed is I now don't like the fact that there's parties till 3 o'clock in the morning at that building. I don't like the fact that the water's dripping out of my ceiling or whatever it is. But if you go in there and say, oh man, the Tower, you mean the frat house with the drippy ceiling? Suddenly Jake feels like, oh great, I have to admit that I was the sucker that signed the lease at that place. And it's little pivots like that, understanding somebody's mindset and how you can work with that mindset and make them feel important and feel smart and feel good. All of a sudden, you'll start to see, instead of getting 1 out of every 5 leases, you get 4 out of every 5 leases. And that's what I'm looking for in every book that I read is, what's that one little nugget that I can take away that will help me improve just a little bit? And that improvement over a lifetime is probably worth $1 million.
What, it was Sales EQ? What was the name of it?
Sales EQ, like Edward.
Yeah.
I think, Jake,
what's the best way for folks to get hold of you?
The easiest way for them to get a hold of me, let me give you my mobile number. It's 303-803-7372. If they want to find me, they can just search apartment marketing on YouTube. Our company is Multifamily Traffic. That's multifamilytraffic.com. I'll give them the office number as well. That's 888-683-5885. If they need the phones to ring, our people are always in a hurry to help. It's always month to month. If you need calls that you can convert to leases, call 888-683-5885. We'll help you there. If you need a friend, call or text my mobile. And if you need some free marketing videos and kind of DIY how to improve your process, just search apartment marketing on YouTube.
G-Dad, what you got?
Jake, I really have to tell you, I thought it was going to be a short show and there wasn't going to be that much information in here, but wow, this was a lot.
Wow.
I mean, a ton. I mean, every show is actionable, but this is the one where you're going to pick up the phone with Matt and go, you know what? I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. How can you help me out? I love the 5-step leasing process. That's going to be in the show notes. I mean, there's a ton of information. Cognitive dissonance, bro. Buyer's remorse. I love that. It's all about empowering the prospect, right? Letting them think that they're choosing you. I love that also. So, I mean, just a ton of information here. So, I love the thing with social media. Everyone thought, hey, let me throw on Facebook. Let me get some likes and this and that. That will save people thousands of bucks right there. So, it's all about saving money and filling up.
Yeah. And even if they're not spending the money, are they spending their time? Is the property manager spending their time? Time is money, guys. Time is cash flow.
Mm-hmm.
You know what else he said? You got to get those units occupied. Amen to that.
Yeah.
I love it.
Uh-huh.
All righty. This has been great. Really appreciate your time today, and thank you very much.
It was a real honor to be on the show. Thanks for having me, guys. I'm happy to come back anytime you'll have me.
Thanks, Matt. I appreciate it. Have a great day, everybody.